So for those who don't know, I am actually a foreign English teacher in Japan, and this is my kind of job. And what I wear, what?
This is your kind of job? This is your actual job.
And this is my job.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Mini Shiitake. I am Flo from Vancouver, Canada.
And I am Jay from Japan.
So for today's episode, what are we going to be talking about, Jay?
Well, today we are going to talk about life of an English teacher in Japan. But before that, I have something to show you, Flo.
You have something to show me. What is it?
I know it's another kind of chips. We love chips. Everybody loves chips.
We do like some chips here in Holy Shiitake.
So yesterday, I was shopping at the grocery, and then I saw this strange-looking chips. So it's like potato chips with some chocolate syrup on it.
Potato chips with chocolate syrup on it. Okay.
Yeah. So this is from Calbee, but it's not sponsored, guys. Calbee is one of the most popular brands in Japan when it comes to chips. And so I saw this and I felt like, maybe I could try this out.
All right. I have a feeling it might be either way. It might be really, really good because of chocolate, or it might be just too weird.
Okay, so the aroma of potato chips and a combination of chocolate syrup is very strong. And this is what it looks like from the inside.
Interesting. So what does it like? Does it smell like potatoes and chocolate together?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So I'm gonna grab one now. I'm gonna grab one. And okay, here we go. Crunchy. Okay, I'm not sure if you're gonna like this. So it's literally potato chips with chocolate syrup in it.
That's all it is. There's like nothing.
That's all it is.
That's literally what you see on the picture. That's what you get. Potato chips with chocolate on it.
I have to say, the chips are not too salty. So is it good or not? I would rate it as 5 over 10.
Or 10. All right. So not that great.
Okay, now let's move on to our main topic.
All right. So today we're gonna be talking about the life of an English teacher in Japan. Considering you're from a different country than Japan, obviously, what goes with the life of an English teacher in Japan? How does that go? How does that work?
So for those who don't know, I am actually a foreign English teacher in Japan, and this is my kind of job. And what I wear, what?
This is your kind of job? This is your actual job.
And this is my job. So, Flo, if you notice, what I'm wearing right now is quite serious looking, formal looking.
It is quite formal looking indeed.
Because this is what we usually wear as foreign teachers, whether you are in the city or in the countryside.
Okay, so you have to be well-dressed and presentable.
Exactly.
A lot of people might know Japanese school from what they've seen in movies and especially anime or manga. So how much of that is actually real?
Well, guess what, guys? Most of it, I would say 90% of what you see in anime is actually true. So do you guys remember the school chimes? So that scene is actually real. And it's kind of funny because when I came here in Japan for the first time, and when I went to my first school for the first time, the bell rang and I was like, wait, that sound is familiar. I know I've heard it before on TV. All right. Now let's talk about the pros of being an English teacher in Japan. The first pro is that when you arrive in Japan, you will be the star of the campus.
Yeah, you'll be the star of the campus. So is it because you're new? Is that because like you're the new face in town?
That's one thing. Another thing is that remember that you're the only foreigner in that school. in Japan, yeah, we do know that in Tokyo there are like tons of foreigners, but these foreigners are tourists. But back in the countryside, the suburbs, and the main city of the country itself, they're not really exposed to foreigners who live in Japan.
Right. So it's like when you're coming in there for the first time, or at least meeting like a new class of kids, you're like the new attraction.
Yeah, you can say that. New
Right?
attraction.
It's like, hey, look, we got something new to look at and make fun of.
Something new! So it doesn't really matter what race you're from, as long as you don't speak their language naturally, or your facial features aren't very similar to theirs, you're very interesting to them. You're always seen, you're being talked about, you always living up the environment. Now, this is the funnier moment. So it was the first period, and the main Japanese teacher is about to introduce the new ALT, which was me. So we were walking in the hallway, and from the hallway, the classroom had this huge window, like a landscape window, and the kids were like that from the window and following my steps, and they were just walking and just doing that, and I felt so intimidated because the whole class was staring at me, looking at me like I was a lion in a circus, or probably a dolphin in an aquarium or whatever. But yeah, it was a really shocking moment for me. And of course, like what you see on the anime, they were, they were in chaos. And once the teacher comes in, they were back to their seats and acting like they're the kindest people in the world,
Right.
So your stardom doesn't just end in the classroom. It just goes on and on, especially if you're living in the countryside.
Right.
Because if you're living in the countryside, people know you. The place is tiny and there are only a few population. There's actually a good thing and a bad thing about that, but we'll definitely talk about that a little later. Okay, another pro is that when you're in Japan and you're actually working and living in Japan, you are experiencing real Japanese life. So what do I mean by this? As a teacher, as a foreign teacher, we're talking about school events, drinking parties, like school festivals, and even meeting actual Japanese people.
Ooh. Because like you're not just meeting actual Japanese people, you're also working with them. So you're interacting with those people like on a more almost personal manner that you would just being a tourist walking in the street, right?
Right. And if you're living and working in Japan, you would really discover what life really is. Not the typical fantasy Japanese dream we often see on the internet, or we often see on YouTube or any place on social media. So I have experienced life in the countryside and the city side, and there are some differences. Living in the countryside, Japanese people are rather shy. Nobody spoke in English at all. But yeah, the next good thing about experiencing Japan in real life is that you experience real izakaya life.
What's izakaya life?
So izakaya means Japanese pub. So after our school festivals or sports day, the teachers gather together and we do a drinking night or a drinking party in the izakaya. We gather together with the parents sometimes, and we cheer. We made cheer. Oh wait.
Kanpai?
Yeah, we do kanpai. So kanpai means cheers
Right.
in Japanese. And then after that, we get drunk and we get merry. The funny thing about this is that Japanese people easily get drunk. I was also shocked when our school principal, right? When our school principal was already a bit drunk and we were doing karaoke, suddenly there was this theme of Ultraman. And he grabbed the mic and started singing in Japanese and doing the Sentai move, And was like, dude, you're the school principal. What are you doing? And he doesn't care because he's drunk and he's at the izakaya.
Right.
All right, so let's talk about the cons.
Yes.
So what are the cons to being a foreign English teacher in Japan? One thing is you get homesick for being alone for too long.
You're in a different country, it's a different culture, you're by yourself, you don't have your family, you don't have your, your regular friends and stuff like that. So it can feel really lonely because you're in a new environment. You don't know anything, you don't know anybody, and it's like you can feel kind of disconnected, I guess.
That's true, because no matter how many friends you have, old or new in Japan, they will come and go. And, being a foreigner makes you a little bit different from the locals in the country. I remember on my 4th month of my first year living in Japan, that was the beginning of my homesickness. Because of course, in the very beginning, I was very excited because I was living alone and, I had no curfew finally. I didn't have to compromise my space with my brother or my sister or my dad. I was living alone. I was free. But too much freedom and too much isolation can really lead you to loneliness.
Especially because you're in a country where most people don't speak your language, and you go out there and you don't, especially when you're there new, you don't necessarily understand anything that's going on around you because a lot of time your Japanese is not that great. Finding stuff to do to kind of fight that loneliness must be pretty difficult.
Literally, I have been doing things by myself because I had literally no one to talk with. I have literally no friends at all in my first year. Believe it or not, guys, I was talking with my car. I was talking with the mountain on the by the window from my apartment. The crows, the flying big black chickens on the corners, and not really a single Japanese person would love to sit down and chat with me. Nobody. Another con is culture shocks and climate differences. Now, we have talked about climate for almost all our episodes, but living in the Philippines and moving to a foreign country where there are 4 seasons was really difficult for me.
Well, I mean, where you are in Hokkaido, it's kind of 4 seasons.
Okay, could you explain to everybody why it's a kind of 4 seasons?
All right, I think we've established, and this is, by the way, this is completely official. Okay, there are basically 3.5 seasons in Japan. You have spring for a month and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You have summer for about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then you have fall for maybe 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
Right.
And everything else is winter.
Yeah, there you go. Bravo.
But let's put an asterisk on that. This is mainly for Hokkaido. You'll find different results depending on where you go in Japan.
Another factor for the cons is the culture shocks. Culture shocks are going to be forever. No matter how long you're going to live in Hokkaido or anywhere else in Japan, you're always going to be experiencing a lot of culture shocks. The first culture shock that I experienced back in Kyoku was the code of silence. I call it the code of silence because in a Japanese mindset, there'll be a lot of thoughts, a lot of opinions, but they will never put that out of their mouth. And Japanese people are very quiet. They will not talk about you on your face. They will talk about you behind your back or probably on your side, and you don't even have any idea about that. But I mean, the culture shock that I experience about this is that sometimes you need to feel to be able to understand what's going on in your environment. Oh. Another culture shock that I also learned is that you have to dress not really to impress, but you have to dress to look appropriate. Because in the Philippines, you have to dress to impress, you know? Like, you have to be creative, you have to be bold, you have to be colorful, you have to stand out. In Japan, it's the other way around. If you want to be appreciated or if you want to be respected, you need to, as a woman, you need to cover yourself. You need to wear very light makeup or no makeup at all. You need to wear closed shoes. Another culture shock that I also noticed is that it's not appropriate to express your mind. So in my country, you're more respected if you speak your mind. If you have an opinion about politics, if you have an opinion about, you know, a certain controversial topic, or you have something to say about women's freedom, equality, in Japan, you have to be careful about these topics. Again, we have to go back. People are not expected to stand out and make a difference. I still feel sad about this culture, but then again, this is their culture and I need to respect that. And until now, it's still hard for me to adjust to that. This is the reason why some Western foreigners who come here to, you know, to live and work don't really last long. One of the reasons would be culture shock and Japanese standards, or, you know, standards of society. Because as we all know, a lot of Westerners don't like to be quiet. And the last con is, sadly, if you are a foreign English teacher and you want to stay as a foreign English teacher for the rest of your life, there is no career development.
Yep. Once you move there as an English teacher, you are basically stuck being an English teacher.
Not just that. I mean, we're talking about the salaries, we're talking about the benefits, we're talking about no promotion. And it's sad. Most dispatch companies don't really follow promotion at all. But, you know, in contrast to that, the life of a foreign English teacher is still an amazing experience for me because you just get to experience a lot of good things living in Japan. I mean, of course, we do experience the bad side. I mean, there's no perfect country anyway. And as a foreigner, you will always experience the bad things in another country, right? But what I do love about being an English teacher in Japan is you got a lot of holidays.
I guess, yeah, being a teacher, you're basically only working when school is in session, right?
When there is Natsuyasumi or summer break, that's like 2 to 3 whole weeks. When there is spring break, it's the same. And winter, which is like the longest. That would be so great.
Question, because there are some times when obviously there's school breaks so you're not working. Do you still get paid in some way when you're not working?
That's a good question. It would depend on the dispatch company you're in. Some dispatch companies do pay you even when you're on vacation. Unfortunately, most dispatch companies don't. And what some teachers do is that they do online part-time jobs. And they also do part-time outside their schools. They do eikaiwa or English conversation projects or paid English conversation. But again, it really depends on the dispatch companies. If the company you are applying at is run by the government, then you don't really have to do part-time because you're being paid in full. Like even if you're on vacation, even if you're school break or holiday breaks, you're still paid, which is a good thing, right? But you're still expected to work on a holiday. All right, and that's it for today's episode.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't hesitate to give us a like. If you're not subscribed yet, you can subscribe, ring the bell. You can also follow us on social media everywhere, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. That will be on the bottom of the screen there and in the description below. My name is Flo and I am from Vancouver, Canada.
And I'm Jay, living here in Japan.
In Japan. Thank you for watching, everybody. We will see you all on the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye! Sentai move? What are you talking about? I'm the school principal.